Hello and welcome to the Tarkis zone. Today we're going to be talking about pumpkins. As you can see, this was my first harvest, and I'm going to talk about what I mean by first, second harvest. This one here, when the chickens were out and about, that's what chickens will do to your pumpkins if you let them roam around when the pumpkin is still green. They did this damage when the pumpkin was green, and then the pumpkin turned orange. So I'm going to go over to my pumpkin patch so I can explain to you what I did. Now, the thing you need to know about pumpkins is they do not like a lot of water. See, I don't know if you can tell by the angle of this camera, but see how this land is on a slope? It actually slopes down, and water will collect there, and from there it goes down into the pond. It's how I've managed my irrigation property to move water down. See how I've made this so it slopes down into this low area and then into the pond. So what I've done is my pumpkins were at the top of this hill, and what I did is around Memorial Day, beginning of spring, I put some pumpkin seeds here, and you can see all these pumpkins are dead, and they should be dead about now, because now we're almost in mid-September, and the pumpkins that you saw on the table came from this area. I harvested them, put them on the table. These that you see here, I planted at a different time, and what I did is planted these, I would say around Memorial Day, I would think, and 2 to 3 weeks later, I put seeds in the ground on the very edge of the rototilled area. So what happened was, these came to harvest, the first harvest, and then these will come to harvest in a couple weeks, closer to Halloween. This way, I know I have fresh pumpkins for Halloween Day, or for the trail, the Halloween, the Emmons Island Haunted Trail that we do. And it's always nice to know that you got some growing up to the day, and then you got some on standby. And what's great about pumpkins, and this is really a rule of thumb, and you can Google all you want about pumpkins, this is how I've been able to do my pumpkin harvests and get the best out of them. And what I do is I like to cut them off the vine at least a month before I use them. And what I do with them during that month time is I'll put them out in the sun, and the sun will cure them. And as you can see, this bad edge, when the pumpkin is growing, it's going to have a bad side. That's the side that it's on the ground, unless you rotate your pumpkins, which I don't do. So what I did was, when I took this off the vine, this was the wet side that was on the ground, and I'm facing it towards the sun. And I live in an area where the sun basically starts there and comes across the sky all the way to there. So I've got perfect sun all day long. So what happens is the sun's been hitting these and curing them, hardening the outsides so that the wet side is hardened now. And a lot of times, this pumpkin here that I'm showing you, this side was green 2 weeks ago. See how it's turned orange while being off the vine? I've also picked one of my sunflower tops, and I'm just drying it out here in the sun. Well, today it's actually been raining. But what I'll do is I'll let this sit out in the sun, and then I'll put it wrap it up in a newspaper, or maybe a paper bag, or put it in a small cardboard box, just so they can sit in a dry, cool location so I can harvest those seeds in the spring. Now I've got the ducks here are eating some tomatoes that we threw down for them. And, okay. So this pumpkin patch, same type of principle. As you can see, as I'm walking up the grade, that these are on their own little hill too. And I harvested those that I planted the same time I planted the other patch. And then 2 to 3 weeks, I think it was 3 weeks, I then planted seeds on the very edge, and that's what you see here. So we've got active pumpkins growing all through here. I have those that we've looked at on the table, plus the ones I have up there on my deck. And I want to stress that it's important that you let the sun hit them. They'll go bad on you. They'll start to rot if you don't let the sun cure them. Let the sun hit them real good. As you can see, and they look ready, you know, they're not soft, they're ready to be carved, they're ready to be jack-o'-lanterns. Here's another patch I've got here right next to the deck. Here is another patch. What I like to do is I like to plant my pumpkins wherever there's a spot to plant them. This is my strawberry bed. That's gone by. As soon as the strawberries went by in the spring, I put some seeds in the ground, pumpkin seeds in the ground, and here we are. Yeah, I got pumpkins all through here. And oh, look at this. This is what I'm talking about. If you let your chickens out, this is what's going to happen. And they got one here the other day, which is okay. I mean, the chickens can have those. Those are kind of extras, I call them. Again, I only let them out to graze a few days at a time. Then I keep them cooped up. I'll let them graze again. They'll graze more in the fall and in the spring when I don't have to worry about them doing this to my pumpkins. So I hope this video helps. Again, they don't like a lot of water. I mean, people say water, water, water. No, let the water hit them, give them a good watering, but the slope should be at a pitch where the water's gonna run off and then let them dry out. So they really need that, because if they get too much water, they actually won't grow as well. That's just how I have found pumpkin plants to grow. Now this was an entire pumpkin patch, and as you can see, I've already pulled the pumpkins out of this area, and the ducks and the chickens, when the chickens were out, they kind of rototilled it for me, which is great. So I kind of plant the pumpkins wherever I've got a grade. You can see here, that's on a hill. That's up on a hill, so the water comes down off them. So they get wet real good, deep soaking, and then you've got to make sure they dry themselves out, like this one here. Look at this. This is a pumpkin plant. Perfect example of what I'm talking about. Look at how nasty it looks. You know why? Because the water on this top of this shed, I've got it angled so all the water comes to this corner and falls down to water this bed. All the other plants in this bed are doing super awesome. Look at that. Look at this. They're doing awesome, right? Not the pumpkin, because it doesn't like the water. It just doesn't like it. The pumpkin just basically rotted itself out. So there's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Is you got to have a place where they can dry themselves out in between deep soakings. Well, that was my video on pumpkins. So thank you for joining. This has been the Tarkis Zone.